What's going on, guys? Today is July 30th, 2020. Hope you guys are having a phenomenal day. And today we're going to be looking at presidential polls that came out in the month of July. So, with that being said, these polls are going to be covering states that aren't battlegrounds and states that are battlegrounds. So, as you see on your screens, a state like New Jersey, which isn't a battleground, are going to be shown. These are just generally all the polls that have been shown, that have been conducted in the state in the month of July. So, with that being said, I'm your host Pro, and let's get on with the video. So, starting off with the state of New Jersey. Biden, again, this isn't a state that's being contested by either campaign. Shows Joe Biden comfortably ahead by 18 points, 51-33 ahead of the president. Not really much we need to talk about. Not really much we need to stay here for. So, moving on to the state of Massachusetts. Also a state that isn't being contested by either party. Shows Joe Biden ahead by 32 points, 55 to 23 ahead of the president. Again, isn't a state that's being contested. Isn't a state that was expected to be a battleground state. So it was expected to be this big of a lead for Joe Biden. Now moving on to states that are going to be more contested in the presidential election. The state of Maine, state all outright, shows currently the former vice president ahead by 12 points, 50-38. But what's more important are the congressional districts individually, which are going to be these two. Which the first congressional district, which is smaller, it's more, you could say, urban in reference to Maine, which isn't really that big of a state, but that's where most of the population is. It shows Joe Biden ahead comfortably by 20 points, ahead of President Trump. And again, congressional district voting matters in this state because Maine separates and divides their electors by congressional district. So while Joe Biden could win, as we saw in 2016, as the Democrat could win the state outright, Donald Trump carried the second congressional district because he carried more votes in that district. So the second congressional district is what we're looking at. And it shows Joe Biden ahead by 3 points, which is, again, in the margin of error for most polls. 45-42, but a lead for Joe Biden, which was expected. But again, in the margin of error, can close up as the race gets closer to election day. So keep an eye out on that district. Moving on to the state of Alaska. As you know, within the past few weeks, it came to our knowledge, surprisingly, that the state of Alaska was actually in play. This poll shows the president ahead by 6 points, 50-44. And although I don't believe that it's going to become a state that's going to be a battleground state that Joe Biden's campaign is going to put a lot of time in, or that Donald Trump's campaign is going to be put in time defending, it is surprising to see that the president is only ahead by 6 points in a state like Alaska that's always voted Republican, that hasn't really had any signs of Democrat since 2008. So that being said, state of Colorado shows Joe Biden comfortably with a lead of 13 points, 54-41. States turning more and more blue as each election passes by. It is the future of the Democratic Party. It is going to be more and more blue as we get into more elections in the future. Moving on to the state of Georgia, poll conducted by public policy polling, as was the previous two polls, shows the state of Georgia actually, although it is in a margin of error, it actually does show former Vice President Joe Biden ahead with a lead of 1 point, 46-45, which again is surprising, given that Georgia was a state that voted for the president pretty handily in 2016. It's surprising to see someone like Joe Biden be in play, let alone leading in a state like Georgia. Again, we expected Georgia to become a battleground state in the coming elections, but not in 2020. So definitely is a surprise seeing Joe Biden leading in the poll. Despite it being in the margin error, still it's surprising to see him with a 1 point lead. Now moving on to the state of Iowa. The state of Iowa was a state that voted for the president pretty handily by around 9 points in 2016. And although the president is still leading in this poll, it's only by 1 point, 48-47. So it's still a bit worrying for the Trump campaign, but a good sign there for them that he's still leading the state of Iowa, 6 electoral votes. So for now, still a little bright light for the president. Another poll here from Maine, the state outright, shows Joe Biden ahead by 11 points, as the poll lower to your screen shows him ahead by 12 points. So it seems around that his lead in the state outright in Maine is around 10 points. So again, consistent, which shows that these polls are pretty consistent. They're most likely going to be right as of now. Moving on to the state of Montana, 45 to 50. Again, although it is a state that is traditionally Republican, well, I don't really see that it's going to be contested by either party or either campaign. But this lead definitely is a bit worrying for the Republicans. Not in the presidential race, but down the ballot in the Senate race, in the governor race. So definitely it's going to be. You're definitely going to want to check out those two races, the Senate and the governor race in Montana. We went to the state of North Carolina, a state that Barack Obama won in 2008, a state that voted again for the Republicans in 2012 and 2016. So, with that being said, this poll actually does show Joe Biden ahead with a 3-point lead, 49 to 46. And again, the state voted for Trump by around 3 points in 2016. So, a swing of 6 points. Not good news for the president of the state. He definitely needs to win to try to win re-election. So definitely something he should be worrying about. Moving on to the state of Arizona. It was conducted by Morning Consult, and it shows the former vice president ahead by 7 points. And again, this is pretty surprising in perspective to 2016, because again, the president carried the state pretty handily in 2016. And again, we didn't expect Arizona to be in play to be a true battleground state in the 2020 election. So to show Joe Biden leading by 7 points is pretty surprising. And although I don't believe that his lead truly is 7 points, I do believe that he's definitely in the race there, whether it be leading or tied. But definitely good news for the Democrats, bad news for the president. Moving on to the state of Colorado, again, we saw a poll earlier. Shows him ahead by 13 points again. Colorado is going to become more and more blue in the coming elections. Not really a state that we need to spend a lot of time on. But moving on. State of Florida. This is a battleground state that definitely needs to be talked about. Shows the president trailing Joe Biden by 3 points, 49 to 46. And again, that is in the margin of error, but definitely a state that the president needs to win if he wants to win re-election. His home state, as he calls it, he needs definitely to win the state convincingly to show, that he can have a path to 270 electoral votes. Moving on to the state of Georgia again, 47 to 46 in favor of Joe Biden. Again, as we saw in the previous poll down here, we saw him leading also by 1 point. And in this poll, it's 47 to 46. The other poll is 46 to 45. So definitely, as we see, still a small amount of undecided voters that definitely will swing this election. Although again, it is in the margin of error. Shows that Joe Biden is definitely in play in this state and is definitely going to contest the state in the election. Moving on quickly, let's move on through some of these polls. State of Michigan voted reliably Democratic until 2016. Shows the former vice president ahead by 10 points, which again was what the margin of what Democrats were winning the state of Michigan by, or in polls at least, were ahead on before the 2016 election. And although the state, yes, it is trending more and more Republican, whether it be gradually or more and more, it is advantaged Biden right now. So as the state is of Minnesota, trending more and more Republican. And surprisingly, this poll actually shows only the vice president ahead by 3 points. And this is a state that the Trump campaign has shown interest in and shown that they're going to target, and rightfully so. I mean, if the polls are telling you that you're only trailing by 3 points in the state of Minnesota, you're definitely going to want to target it. So definitely, the Biden campaign is going to have to be playing defense on this state. The Trump campaign is definitely going to be looking at the state to try to take it. Same thing with North Carolina, but vice versa. Currently, this poll shows them tied 47 apiece. In North Carolina, 15 electoral votes, a state that President Trump needs, and a state that Joe Biden definitely could use. But yeah, so moving on to the state of Ohio, shows the president ahead by 3 points. A state that he won by 9 points in 2016. A state that he definitely is going to need, that no Republican has won the White House without since 1960. Um, so yeah, with that being said, advantage Trump in the state, good signs for them. And moving on just quickly, last couple polls, state of Pennsylvania shows the former vice president ahead in his home state, in his hometown state, 50 to 42. Again, the president carried this by less than a percentage point in 2016. So turnaround, a swing of around 9 points. So definitely advantage Biden. Definitely bad news for the Trump campaign, and definitely a good job by the Biden campaign trying to turn these former blue wall states, these Rust Belt states, back into Democratic territory. And now the next poll, Texas. Actually, surprising to see Joe Biden ahead by 2 points. Again, this state is a state that's turning more and more Democratic with more Hispanic vote, more minorities, and a bigger urban area. But despite this, we didn't see it being as a battleground state or a state that's going to be highly contested in the 2020 election until recently. So definitely a state that the president needs to play defense on, a state that Joe Biden has a chance at. That shows this poll. So definitely not advantage Biden, but definitely a state that Joe Biden can definitely target in this election. Virginia, again, a state that's that's turning into a safe Democratic state. Not really much we need to talk about. Joe Biden ahead by 11 points. So yeah. Next is Wisconsin, a state again also that Donald Trump won, that gave him the 270 electoral votes to win to become president. It currently shows him ahead by 7 points. It currently shows Joe Biden, ahead by 7 points, 50 to 43. And as we see a trend in these Rust Belt states, as we see in Pennsylvania, as we see in Wisconsin, as we also see in a state like Ohio, a lot of voters are flipping towards Democrats. Specifically looking at Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, his vote is margin. His lead is going to around 8, 9, 10 points. So definitely, I think we need definitely states that are going to decide the race. Definitely states that the Trump campaign is worried about, and states that Joe Biden needs to reclaim if he wants to win the White House. Washington really isn't that important. We know it's going to go Democratic. Shows Joe Biden ahead by 34 points. Yeah. So last two polls are just on the president's approval rating. Currently, it shows around 45% of people approve of him, while 54 and 55% disapprove of him. And this is around what his approval rating was when we were nearing the 2018 midterm elections, and we saw how that went out. Although the Democrats did win the House of Representatives, it wasn't a blue wave that so many people were thinking it was going to happen. Even in a video I made in 2018, the hype was so real about a blue wave happening that I thought the Democrats were going to have a shot, but as we saw, they were going to have that shot at the Senate. But as we saw, the Republicans actually took seats. They took 2 seats. So yeah. So definitely good news in the case of the president. Again, all time historically, this is really bad. But in the case of the current president, of Donald Trump, this is really good. Although, yeah, most people disapprove of him, it's better than what it usually is. So with that being said, just quickly I'm gonna go onto this map just to fill out what the states would look like if the polls were exactly right. Moving on with Nevada. Pretty safe. Arizona is leaning towards Joe Biden. Texas shows it's turning blue. Same thing with Georgia, Florida, and just with that, he's above. Joe Biden's already above 320 electoral votes without even the Rust Belt being counted for. So definitely a worry for the president. But yeah, so currently North Carolina is a toss-up state. One poll did show Joe Biden ahead. So for the time being, we're just going to be leaving that as toss-up. Virginia is pretty likely going to go Democratic. Same thing with Pennsylvania. Michigan's actually lean. Wisconsin's also lean. And right now, currently, Iowa and Ohio are the only states that the president, out of all these polls, was truly having a comfortable lead in. So, just for hypothetical reasons, just because we had one poll in the being tied in one poll in favor of Joe Biden, we're just gonna give him state of North Carolina just in his column just for now, hypothetically. But look at that, almost 400 electoral votes if the polls are completely right. She forgot to put Indiana. I don't know why that was in blue, but yeah, still almost 400 electoral votes for Joe Biden if the polls are completely right. And as we saw last time that the polls had someone ahead in the presidential race by around 7, 8, 9, 10 points. We saw how that turned out. We saw that candidate receive over 400 electoral votes, win convincingly, win in a landslide, and it helped down the ballot. It helped in the Senate races, in governor races, in House of Representative races. So currently, again, we're about 100 days away from the election. With that being said, definitely advantage Democrats right now. So yeah, wrapping out this video. Hope you guys did enjoy. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, any suggestions. Hope you guys can go check out my last video, election night 2020, Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. I will be posting more in the future. That's my sign. Okay. Well, yeah. Hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll catch you in the next one.